Hello, Booktube. I come to you in yet another bleak and barren Sunday when there are no books in the mail for Steve. Nothing new to paw over or open for you, just the same old, same old. And as usual, I'm consoling myself with a tag. This one about book adventures in days past. This is the independent booksellers tag, which I found on uh, Will's channel, Vintage Books, which I will link to. It's wonderful. And it's to celebrate Independent Bookshop Week, which goes next week from the 18th of June to the 25th of June, where you're supposed to celebrate the independent bookstops that mean so much to all of us. Go in, take pictures, tweet, that sort of thing. Once upon a time, for a long time in my life, the premise of the implication there would have bugged me because I have had the privilege of working for a quarter of a century at a chain bookstore that just happened to have a great crew, a fantastic bookish crew. And it always bugged us when we would hear routine disparagement from people saying, "Oh, well, in a chain bookstore, the help doesn't even know what they're talking about. You have to go to an independent bookstore to get real book people." Unfortunately, that old crew from that great store has scattered to the four winds, and the chain bookstore in question here in the United States is currently making a priority out of sending booksellers around on the sales floor to ask customers if they need help and if maybe they'd like to buy a membership card, intruding on the sanctity of the quiet browsing experience. So, a chain bookstore like that, deserves all the brickbats that are thrown at it. Also deserves to go out of business. But once upon a time, the distinction was less probative than you might think, at least in Boston. But anyway, now I can certainly reminisce about other shops. And the question number one is, what books are currently in your bag? Which I just love. I love questions like that. So let us see here. The first one is something I mentioned on this channel before. This is the ARC of Gene Edward Smith's biography of George W. Bush in office. I'm carrying it everywhere. I'm reading it now in bits and pieces in great depth. I believe there's another book in here. Oh, yes, a stopgap book, The Nabob's Widow. This is by April Killstrom. It's an old Regency romance it's a backup book, just in case I hit a dry patch with the bush or don't feel like reading it. You always got to have a Regency romance with you, don't you? Question number two, what's the last great book you read? For me, that is going to be this one here. I don't know how much you can see it in here. It's Jorg Babarowski's Scorched Earth. It's a translation of a work of his from the German from, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's about... the book is an unremitting indictment of the mad violence with which Stalin ruled the Soviet Union. It depicts Stalinism as a cruel and deliberate attack on Russian society driven by totalitarian ambitions and the goal of modernizing and rationalizing a backward people. And I thought it was so astoundingly good that I'm seriously considering damaging the budget just a bit by getting a German copy. We'll see. I keep telling myself don't do that, but well, maybe there'll be a cheap download. Let's see here. Number three, what book have you gifted the most? As I think I've mentioned on this channel before, I don't take a cookie cutter approach to gifting books. Usually what I do is ask a million questions in order to try to triangulate the right thing. But for books that I have gifted blind, especially recommended to customers, the one that stands out more than any other is one that I've given away so many copies of I don't have one to show you. It's The Killer Angels by Michael Shara. His great novel about the Battle of Gettysburg. It's so well done that I used to say for years and years, I used to tell my customers that if you don't like it, I'll buy it back from you. And I never had anyone take me up on it. It's almost that magic bullet kind of book. You could almost give it to anyone and have them love it. So needless to say, I enormously recommend it. Question number 4. What's your favorite independent bookshop? Took us a while to get to this question, didn't it? You'd think it'd be number 1. I have a million candidates. There's Prairie Lights in Iowa City, Iowa. That's just a wonderful, wonderful bookshop. There's the late, now gone Wordsworth Books in Harvard Square here in Massachusetts. We had such fun on the crew of that store, and we had such lunch rushes, just packed in like sardines. It was wonderful. But of course, you know the answer. The answer is going to be the Brattle Bookshop right here in Boston. A used bookstore that I have been going to for a very, very long time. Longer than I would bet most of you have been alive. I never miss it. I go whenever I can, and when I have been out of the state or out of the country, I have badly, badly yearned to go back. If I had the technical ability, I would do a long thing to go to the Brattle, maybe someday. But I'll link it down below. It's my number 1 choice, of course. It's my home away from home. Question number 5. What's your favorite book recommended by a bookseller? I was a bookseller for so long, for so many places. Laureate's here in Boston, Wordsworth here in Boston, Barnes & Noble here in Boston, that I mostly did the recommending. But one that comes to mind, I'm going to sort of switch the question because this was recommended by a customer and sparked a love affair. And that's this. This is Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander, and by extension his whole Aubrey and Maturin series, which I had seen on bookshelves. I'd shelved it myself and I'd ignored it. And a customer said, you ought to read these. They're incredible. They're almost better than the Hornblower novels. And I read the first one, and then I read the second one, and then I read them all, and now I firmly state they're better than Hornblower. They're incredible. Just amazing. And you don't need to be an old salt. You don't need to be a nautical fiction buff to love them. They're lovable no matter who you are. They just take a little getting used to, that's all. Question number 6. What's your favorite bookshop memory? I have a million of them. One that I'll share now was the Barnes & Noble in downtown Boston, a building that is 100 years old and is now the spot where that store was is empty and has been empty for years. But for a long time, we had a 2-story bookstore in there, and it was the only source of natural light was the front door. There were no windows. It was just a warehouse. So, and there was one day where the lights went out, the electricity went out in the building, plunged the store into pitch darkness. And the employees had to form daisy chains to get the customers out of the store safely and shepherd them to the light and get them out the front door. And then when it was all over, our store manager, a wonderful, wonderful woman, got the staff together in the sort of half twilight on the first floor. And because it was so darn frustrating, she decided to have a gigantic therapeutic scream where we all just screamed. Now, if you're a bookseller, you know the punchline of this story already. We had missed a customer who was in a back aisle of the store in pitch darkness, terrified, and then heard a gigantic barbaric scream. We apologized, and I think a gift card was given out. Question number 7. What do bookshops mean to you? What do you love about them? Will, in his video, hit on a big element for me, which is a pause. The pause they give us. You go in and you browse, and you ruminate with your thoughts, and with the covers, and with the blurbs, and nobody bothers you. Ideally, anyway, nobody bothers you. That means a lot to me, but also, since the bookstores that I'm talking about are mostly secondhand bookstores, for me it also means the thrill of the hunt, because at the Brattle, for instance, a couple other places I go, the stock changes fairly rapidly, so I get to see new things and wonder, do I need them? Does somebody else need them? That sort of thing. So interest in books. Question number 8. What are the books that made you? What books have influenced you? Now, if you've been watching this channel, you will guess that I'm going to hold up Homer and the Bible, because it's absolutely true. It might sound trite, but they were the formative books for my reading. But since I've held them up so much, I thought I would hold up a couple of others that also mean everything to me, just everything. The first one is Horace, the Odes and Epistles of Horace, the Roman poet, which I know backwards and forwards and love. They are they're a big part of my vocabulary of what it is to be human. And very much along the same lines is the Canterbury Tales. Geoffrey Chaucer's just irrepressible, panoramic look at human life. If I had to name an indispensable work of literature, one single indispensable work of literature out of the whole of the canon, I would name the general prologue of the Canterbury Tales. Question number 9: what books do you recommend as gifts for Father's Day? I go back to that older question. Fathers come in all shapes and sizes. They come in all interests and areas of expertise. So I would, somebody comes in and wants, do you have a big fat presidential biography for my dad? I can't count the number of times that I have said to that customer, well, does your father like historical biographies? And they say, I don't know. I just assume it's a dad kind of thing. No. That's not how it works at all. So I have no answer to this question. I would want to ask a million questions to find out what the dad in question likes. And question number 10: what book is currently at the top of your TBR? There are two. There's this one. This is by Elaine Camark, and it's Why Presidents Fail. Since it's from the Brookings Institute, I assume the answer will be because they were Democrats, but I could be wrong. It's a thin thing, so I'll go right through it. And also this, Adrian Goldsworthy's new book, Pax Romana, about the Roman conquests and the Roman scheme of conquest, the attitude towards conquest. Can't wait. He's always fun to read. And that's it. That is the Independent Booksellers tag in honor of Independent Bookshop Week. And I don't have anyone specific in mind to tag because I don't know how many of you live near independent bookstores, but I definitely want to tag everyone who's from London. Anyone watching me who has a BookTube channel is from London. I would like your answers to these questions. And that's it. That put a bookshop memory smile on my face for a bleak and barren Sunday. So thank you for that, BookTube, and I'll see you soon.